Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are being joined this morning by Dr. Hamid Ghany, who is a university professor at UWI and a political scientist. Good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you. Very well, thanks.
All right, so for this morning, our discussion is in relation to and some information that we got recently, where the name of Mr. Watson Duke, who is the political leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, as well as the assemblyman for Roxborough, his name is on a list of aldermen for Port of Spain. And before we get into that particular discussion, Dr. Ghany, just for our viewers here in Tobago who are not quite familiar with the structure of local government and how it works in terms of what are the aldermen and councillors, differences, and so on, I just would like you to start by just giving our viewers a little bit of the structure in a nutshell.
Yes, well, the local government bodies in Trinidad, the regional and city and borough corporations, all have elected councillors who represent geographical districts within their corporations. So in Port of Spain, you will have 12, and in Chaguanas, you have 8, San Fernando, you have 9, and it varies in the various corporations. But every corporation has 4 aldermen. The aldermen might be considered as the equivalent of senators in the parliament. They require to have a certain amount of expertise. The Municipal Corporations Act specifies that they should have some expertise in specialized areas, and as a consequence, those 4 in every corporation are elected, but not elected on the first past the post method that is used for the geographical constituencies. You know this first past the post method in Tobago as well for all of the districts in Tobago where you return assemblymen, where you have 15 assemblymen. Well, in Trinidad, in the local government bodies, you have councillors who are elected in a similar manner by the first past the post system of election. However, in since 2013, there was a reform whereby the aldermen are now elected on the basis of proportional representation using the Hare method, Hare. And what it is that when a party puts up candidates in a corporation, after all the seats are determined, the EBC will then tally all the votes that all the parties got in that corporation, and they then have a formula that they use to then determine how the 4 aldermen are to be divided among the parties based on how the tally of votes in all the districts in that corporation came out. So what could happen is that one party may get 1 alderman, another one may get 2, another one may get 1, depending on the tally of the votes. So the votes of the voters actually count twice. The first time it counts in your area where you vote for your councillor, and then after all the councillors are elected, then they tally up all the votes in all the districts in that corporation and see what the parties got. And then there's a formula that they apply to be able to determine the allocation of the 4 aldermen. So the aldermen are really also elected, but your party has to qualify. If you don't get enough votes, well, there are only 4 aldermen in every corporation. So at minimum, each party would have to get 25% to get 1 alderman. And that is basically what's going on. If you don't get up to 25%, you get 0. If you hit 25% or more, then you're guaranteed at least 1. And if you hit 50%, you're guaranteed at least 2. And that's how it goes. So it really is based on your tally of votes inside a corporation.
Now, like I said, we saw yesterday that there was a list that came out, and perhaps the director could put up that list right now of, the aldermen that the Progressive Democratic Patriots is putting forth for Port of Spain. And on that list is Mr. Watson Duke, who currently holds the position of assemblyman. He's an elected assemblyman here in Tobago, part of the Tobago House of Assembly. And I mean, Dr. Ghany, I would just like you to clarify, because according to the Municipal Act, we're seeing here, is it in section 8, when they talked about who can be disqualified, and if you just go to the um, second image, it says that, their disqualification might be if the member is a member of the Senate, the House of Representatives, the Tobago House of Assembly, or another municipal council. Now, with Mr. Duke being an assemblyman right now and putting forth his name to be a possible alderman, depending on how the election pans out in August, um, should Mr. Duke resign in Tobago? What should happen with his position as an assemblyman?
You put up one arm of the issue, which is in terms that's coming obviously from the Representation of the People Act or the Municipal Corporations Act that you're looking at. The other side of the coin is in Section 15 of the Tobago House of Assembly Act, where another disqualifier appears, where you are not to be a member of the Senate or the House of Representatives or a member of a municipal or regional corporation. I think that the controversy would only arise if he actually goes through with seeking to become an alderman, because he would not be able to have both. So it's one or the other. But being on the list is one issue, and that is subject to some legal interpretation, which I'm not going to attempt to do on national television. But there are disqualifiers on both sides. There's the municipal corporation side, and there is also the Tobago House of Assembly side in Section 15. So I think that putting the name forward is one thing, qualifying if you get enough votes is another. I think the bigger issue for me here is that on the 20th of February this year, Mr. Duke posted a video on his Facebook page where he indicated that he wanted to become the mayor of Port of Spain. And he spoke a lot about how he had lived for some time at 1 Woodbrook Place in Port of Spain, and that he was also the president of the PSA at 89 Abercrombie Street in Port of Spain, and that he knew the issues of Port of Spain very well. I mean, all that's on the video. I'm just repeating in a synopsis what he said on the video on the 20th of February. So his intention is to obviously play some role in the politics and governance of the city of Port of Spain. Where I think Mr. Duke is going to have a challenge is how does he engage his constituents in Roxborough, Argyle, where he is the assemblyman in the Tobago House of Assembly for that area, because he can't have one foot in one and the other foot in the other one. I think that politically, he has to have some kind of conversation with his constituents in Roxborough, Argyle, as regards his intentions to participate in the governance and the politics of the city of Port of Spain in Trinidad. And I think that is where this particular issue will go, because it is one that only emerged on Wednesday, when the EBC, just about lunchtime on Wednesday, the EBC put up the list of aldermen filed by all the political parties, and those lists were required on nomination day to be filed with the EBC. And on an examination of the lists, the number of names that the political parties have put forward, and the PDP is only contesting in 3 of the regional corporations, in 3 corporations in Trinidad. They're contesting in the city of Port of Spain, they're contesting in the San Juan Lavantil Corporation, and they're contesting in the Sangre Grande Corporation. Now, in his video on the 28th of February, Mr. Duke said that they would contest in all. But it's obvious that things have changed between when he made the video and now, but they're only contesting in 3 corporations. But I think his bigger challenge is, how does he juggle Roxborough, Argyle with the city of Port of Spain? And that, I think, is where some kind of conversation may have to go on with the constituents in Roxborough, Argyle, as regards his intentions for the future.
Now, this situation, this is not the first time that Mr. Duke has sort of tried to cross lines in terms of who he represents. But should this be a situation where we perhaps look at our laws, where we try to organize them in such a way that when someone is in an elected position, they remain focused, or at least they try to remain focused in that area, so that they don't go, let's say, campaigning in Port of Spain when they're supposed to be serving the people of Roxborough, Argyle?
Have these provisions for disqualification because it is obvious that persons may want to go and do something other than what they're currently doing. And there are provisions in the law to disqualify persons who attempt to do that. In other words, the electoral laws and the representational laws in respect of the various pieces of legislation, whether it's the Municipal Corporations Act or the Tobago House of Assembly Act, there are disqualifiers built in those pieces of legislation that would restrain someone from being able to do both. So it's either one or the other. So that's the legal dimension. The political dimension is what is the intention of the individual. And I think Mr. Duke did not hide it. He made it very clear in his video on the 28th of February this year what his intention was. He wants to become the mayor of Port of Spain. Now, his party, the PDP, is contesting all 12 seats in the Port of Spain City Corporation. And the PNM are contesting all 12 seats. Now, the UNC and the National Transformation Alliance of Gary Griffith, they're contesting 6 seats each. So they're not contesting all 12. And then the Progressive Empowerment Party of Philip Alexander is contesting 3 seats. So what you have in Port of Spain is a situation where only the PDP and the PNM are contesting all 12 seats. Now, to earn, and this is very critical, to earn aldermen on the proportional representation calculation, to dip into the 4 aldermen in the proportional representation calculation, they're going to tally up the votes that the parties get in all 12 of the districts. Now, only the PNM and the PDP are going to get a full tally. The UNC are only contesting 6, the NTA are only contesting 6, and the PEP is only contesting 3. So you have a situation in which the UNC and the NTA and the PEP are not likely to earn any aldermen. So it means that Mr. Duke's party and the PNM are the ones who are likely to get the full tally for all 12 and may in fact qualify for aldermen. So if it is that there is a higher turnout than usual, and the Port of Spain City Council has tended to have a very low turnout in the 20s. If it is that for some reason there's tremendous excitement in the election and the turnout is much higher than usual, and the PDP and the PNM, which are the two that are most likely to be able to dip into the aldermen, you get that kind of situation. You obviously realize that this situation is one that would present an interesting proposition for Mr. Duke, because if it is that his party does well and he decides to take up an appointment, because the party has to decide from its list who is going to go forward as an alderman. If he decides that he wants to go forward, that he's appointed by the EBC and he automatically becomes an alderman, his seat in Tobago is going to become the subject of some kind of discussion. So whether he would get an appointment or not will be a function of another discussion that we have to have down the road with regard to his representation and membership as an assemblyman in Roxborough, Argyle. That is going to become an issue should the issue of him becoming an alderman arise. As it is now, he's listed to become one. He's on track. He is there, officially nominated. So we have to see how this is going to play. But it is a very interesting political development, and I haven't seen much commentary in the media about it. Your station perhaps may be the only one that has raised this issue, but it is one that has tremendous political significance that lies ahead.
Certainly some interesting roles. And I want to thank you so much for being on with us, Dr. Ghany, and for giving us that perspective. That we here at Tobago Updates are going to continue to follow very closely to see what happens. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Great. All right, viewers, well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we will continue our conversations here on Good Morning Tobago. So don't go anywhere. The energy felt